What's up guys? So today we're back with our ancient Greek polis build with part 4. So we're going to be building some villas, we're going to be building the gymnasium of the city, but we're also going to be building some smaller little houses that will make up the main residential core of the city. So we're going to build a bit more on that, but as you can see over here with my spyglass, we've got a quick sneak peek of what we're going to be building over there. We're going to be mixing a couple of different styles of build in this video, of basically trying to recreate some classical Greek houses. So yeah, without further ado, let's get on with a time lapse. So the first thing I'm going to be building in this video is an ancient Greek villa that is based around a courtyard. And I'm imagining this villa is going to be some sort of magistrate's villa. Maybe this is the villa of one of the, I don't know, city administrators or someone who runs the agora over here in this part of the city. So what I'm doing is I'm making this villa around a central courtyard with a nice front-facing patio with some statues and stuff, as well as some terraces on top of the roof. And I'm using a mix of things like andesite, smooth quartz and sandstone as the main colour palette. And as you can see, I've got multiple different little buildings that basically form together with some stoa, some walls that then form a patio in the middle. What I'm liking to do here is I've been trying to experiment a little bit with the spruce trapdoors in order to make canopies, as well as the mangrove signs, in trying to make different patterns and stuff on the walls in these ancient Greek builds. But I guess the theme or the colour theme of this city at the moment is looking like it's a bit of like a mix of white, brown and red. So I'm trying to consider that as we go along with this build and saying, okay, what things are going to match with the colour schemes? We could have some houses with, you know, different colours here or there, but most likely the houses with the most colour are going to be the wealthiest houses, and then the houses with the least colour, i.e. the main residential districts or even the slums when we get to build those, will have even less colour. So the city's colour scheme is kind of going to adapt over time, but I'm just winging it at this stage at the moment, to be honest. So as you can see, I'm using some copper armour to make some brass statues in the front over there, putting some pots, I'm putting a little garden in the back here with a couple of olive trees, and you get like a nice little villa as we've got here. Now I've just added on the right here a villa design that I've used in other builds across my world, and you might have seen other videos. So I'm just going through, I'm changing the colours, and I'm going to change a couple of little elements on it. But this is also a really nice villa design which uses campfires as these canopies and uses some more diorite in it to make it look a bit more stately. And then we're going to start on the main residential core of our polis. So what I'm trying to do in this build is I'm trying to keep the oikos themselves quite simple. So this is like a larger oikos, or kind of like a medium-sized oikos that has a courtyard in the middle, within the main family buildings centered around that courtyard, with maybe like a little watering hole in the middle. Maybe you could store your donkeys or store your cattle in the middle, all that sort of stuff. So this is one of the smaller designs in this build. And then I'm going to have a few of like the smaller houses which are just like non-detached, like terraced houses that back off these, so ones without courtyards. But the main materials I'm just using smooth quartz, calcite and then bricks, just trying to keep it really, really, really simple. Because the reality is that a lot of the houses in ancient Greece, they wouldn't have been particularly fancy. They would have been probably just tile roof, whitewashed houses. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to keep the builds quite simple, but then adding little bits of detail like the canopies, some pots out the front, maybe some gardening bits, maybe adding some little extra details on the roof. So here I'm adding some buttons. And as you come to the back over here, I'm going to do a little bit of a different thing with different layers. So I'm putting some andesite down to maybe raise the house off the floor. And this is something I kind of begin to adopt a bit more towards the end of the video, where the rest of the house I'm just like, okay, this looks quite cool, I'm going to go with this. And the reality is when you build a lot of these districts, you're less so thinking about the actual houses themselves, but more so like the block of houses and how they fit together. So here again, I'm doing the andesite base, and I'm mixing some calcite and some smooth quartz, and I'm building a larger oikos over here. So it's similar to the one I built earlier, but it's just a little bit bigger. And I'm thinking of making this one a bit fancier, so I'm adding some diorite, maybe that's like some marble in the build, with some extra more decorative bits in it. But the effect that you get is actually really quite nice, I think. So then again, I'm just adding some of these smaller little houses on the side. So maybe this one has a larger front garden, front terrace area. So this person could be someone who, I don't know, in most of the week they don't sell things, but then their house opens up to be like a commercial space. later on in the week. And then here I've got this small alleyway, which I've decided to design around and build around in this video. So I'm copying a couple of little houses over here to make different variations of that courtyard. So here I've decided, okay, I'm going to make this a bit taller. Maybe this is a larger house and I'm building a terrace in the top. So maybe this is like I don't know, again, this is someone's house or the house of someone who is a bit more important in the city rather than just like a normal, baker or something like that. And then I'm building around this central alleyway over there. So then you can get the entrance to one of the middle houses that I'm going to put in the middle here from that alleyway. And again, if you kind of deviate from the block plan of your city, you can add a little bit of intrigue and interest in those smaller areas. So again, here I'm copying that same building across and I'm changing it. So I'm adding a colonnade in the front. I'm going to change the upstairs as well. So I'm going to knock out much of that upstairs and make it mostly terraces. So over here, I'm using the campfires and I'm using a bit of spruce. I'm using a bit of the diorite walls, the pale oak, to try and make it look like a bit of a colonnade at the top. And then here I'm doing the same thing where I'm making these small houses. Really, really simple, guys, just like andesite, cobblestone, some of the white, like lighter coloured blocks to make it look like it's plaster, and then just the bricks on top. Super, super simple. And this house in the middle I actually think looks really cute. It's really, really simple design, but then if you add the spruce trapdoors, it makes it, there's a bit of structure in the roof, which looks really nice, I think. And same with this little house over here. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building the gymnasium for the city. So in ancient Greece and in the ancient Greek polis, the gymnasium was the centre of exercise and the centre of like sports practice. So things like wrestling, things like running, etc. Basically, it's an ancient Greek gym, pretty much. But it would have been a social place where people would have gone to exercise and be social. And it would have been located primarily in residential districts or around the agora area. So what we've done here is this is in like a more central area of the city where people might be passing on their way to work. Just realised here so I've just corrected that with the symmetry. And it would have been a building that would have had a central courtyard, maybe a nice entranceway like I've done there, and then it would have had roofed colonnades either side, with then a changing room or some sort of storage room towards the back. So here I'm imagining this to be a changing room. I've not furnished it yet in this video, but you can see that this might be a changing room for the people who are coming there to do their exercise. Just doing a little bit of gardening out front. So the ancient Greeks really liked their gardening and making things look nice. So we're doing that right here over here as well. And then I'm going to be building the last block in this video. So this one I'm doing as just a whole block by itself rather than doing the individual houses. And I think it actually turns out a little bit better. So even though it turns out the actual buildings I think are actually a bit simpler, the changes in like the direction in the blocks create these really cool roof patterns that aren't exactly equal. So what you don't want it to look like is you don't want to make it look like the whole block has been planned like a Roman insula, because that wasn't typical of ancient Greece. In ancient Greece, typically, and much of the ancient world, a lot of these houses would have been planned informally, so people would have just gone, okay, I'm going to build my house here, and things would have developed over time. So you kind of want to make it look like that, where people are just going, okay, I'm just going to build here. You, the neighbour, you can build off my house, etc. And this is the sort of thing that we're going to see as I tour around this. So as you can see, the city is starting to come together. We've got the gymnasium over here with a nice colonnade out the front. So I've used these little golems as the top of the capitals of our columns. I'm a bit unsure about that. I don't know if there's a better way to do these smaller columns with some capitals, but that's the best idea I had at the moment. But as you can see, it's a really nice gymnasium space. You've got quite a lot of space to do your exercises. You've got spectator areas, you've got storage, and then you've got this changing storage area towards the back, which I've not quite furnished yet. It would probably be a bit more furnished. But you can imagine this could be a changing and storage area. Now moving on to one of the houses. The house over here is a good example. So we've got a central courtyard with a watering area, little fountain. Then very, very simple. I've not really, faffed about too much about the interiors, but you've got a kitchen. And then you've got a couple of sleeping areas for the family that is living in this house. Super, super simple. And yeah, we're going to check out these villas a little bit later. But as you can see, you've got some little houses here and there. So this one's maybe a bit more furnished. And what's quite nice about this is that it feels quite low density. A lot of these ancient Greek cities, other than Athens really, would have felt quite low density in the classical period. As you move into like the later Hellenistic period, the buildings get more complicated and they use more 2-story and 3-story buildings. But typically in the classical period, you would have had 1- and 2-story buildings because the building was just simpler. So you get this really nice like low density feeling to this city, which is quite nice. So here you've got another house with a courtyard, and you've got pretty good circulation around this. So some of the older Greek cities wouldn't have been planned like this in these grids, but as you look towards the Greek colonies, particularly in Sicily and the east coast of Spain, it would have been built like this. So they would have been built with these grid street patterns around a central agora. Got a couple of little alleyways here or there. And then walking towards the villas over here, which are quite nice. So again, this villa is actually something that I've used in another build. I've just come along and I've edited some bits here or there. It's a really nice villa. I think it's quite complicated in terms of how it's built, and it's a bit lavish, to be honest. But maybe this is like a local merchant or local businessman. This is their villa in the city, and you've got this nice like out-facing merchant area in the front. And then this is maybe like a magistrate's villa, maybe like the mayor of the city. So this is where they would have lived. So it's a bit more, it's less lavish, but it's more utilitarian, but it's still quite big nonetheless. As you can see, I'm not quite finished furnishing this one, but you kind of get the effect. It looks quite cool. And there you have it, guys. So that's it for today's build. Let me know what you think we should build in the next video. I'm thinking that we should build maybe the slums. I'm thinking maybe out towards that way to the south of the amphitheatre. We could build a slum area or even a fishing area. If not, we're going to do the agricultural area. So some ideas in the comments for that would be really appreciated. But I really hope you guys have enjoyed the video and you got some inspiration. And until the next one, guys, goodbye and have a nice weekend.